Hey, what's up, everyone? Jasper Gonzo here. Another episode of What's Next. Of course, as always, your daily dose of facts and common sense. Happy Tuesday. Well, this just broke late last night, 7:30, 8 o'clock last night. A decision that was leaked from the Supreme Court, of course, is a no-no. But this decision could send shockwaves throughout the country, reverberate for generations to come. Of course, those of us on the right are praying and hoping that this is true, but we are cautious. Those on the left, their heads are exploding right now. Let's take a look. This comes out of Breitbart. Supreme scandal. Leaked Supreme Court opinion overruling Roe. Quote, time to heed the Constitution, returns abortions to elected officials. Wow. A draft Supreme Court opinion overruling Roe has been leaked to the press in one of the greatest scandals that ever hit the nation's high court and possible attempt to intimidate one or more of the justices to reverse their vote to ignite a liberal brushfire to pack the Supreme Court before the Democrats get blown out in November. Quote, it's time to heed the Constitution and return the issue of abortion to people's elected representatives. The possible draft opinion by Justice Samuel Alito reads, making the case that where the Constitution is silent, the American people govern themselves through elections and their elected officials, not federal judges. Wow, common sense. It quotes the late Justice Antonin Scalia, who said, quote, the permissibility of abortion and the limitations upon it are to be resolved, like most important questions in our democracy, by citizens trying to persuade one another, then voting upon it. He then adds, that is what the Constitution and the rule of law demands. The document published by Politico claims to be a draft opinion, appears to be authentic, but is not a binding decision until the court, at least 5 justices, sign it. And this looks like a transparent and unprecedented betrayal of one of the 45 people who have access to draft Supreme Court opinions to prevent this decision from becoming law by scaring off moderate justices, Coney Barrett, Kavanaugh, you know who you are, and attempting to whip the political left into a frenzy. There are 5 key points to realizing this opinion, how shockingly it could have happened, and why the Supreme Court will suffer incalculable damage if one of the majority justices switches sides. I'm not going to go through the entire opinion, but just the major points. This is on page 67. Key highlights, page 5. We hold that Roe v. Wade must be overruled. The Constitution makes no reference to abortion, and no such right is implicit, protected by a constitutional provision, including one of the defenders of Roe and Casey now chiefly rely. The Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment. The provision has been held to guarantee some rights that are not mentioned in the Constitution, but any such right must be, quote, deeply rooted in the nation's history and tradition and implicit in the concept of ordered liberty. The right to abortion does not fall into this category. Until the latter part of the 20th century, such a right was entirely unknown to the American law. Indeed, when a 14th Amendment was adopted, 3/4 of the state made abortion a crime at all stages of pregnancy. The abortion right is also critically different from any other, quote, protection of liberty. Roe's defenders characterized the abortion right as similar to the rights recognized in past decisions involving matters such as intimate sexual relations, contraception, and marriage. But abortion is fundamentally different, as both Roe and Casey acknowledge, but it destroys what those decisions called fetal life, and what the law now before us describes us as an unborn human being. Wow. The opinion discusses at length whether the Constitution is originally understood, including a right to abortion, concluding it does not, and then goes on for many pages of the feature of stare decisis, legal policy, and where to adhere the court precedent, and explains why stare decisis does not require upholding Roe's right to abortion. Finally, page 62 addresses the point that whoever betrayed the court was likely trying to make this an unprecedented violation of trust. The American people's belief that the rule of law would be shaken if they lost respect for the court, an institution that decides important cases based on principle and not social political pressures. Gee. Quote, but we cannot exceed the scope of our authority under the Constitution, and we cannot allow our decisions to be affected by extraneous influences such as concerns about the public's reaction to our work. Yes, we're not worried about what other people think of us. Alito responds for the court. That is true both when we initially decide a constitutional constitutional issue and when we consider whether to overrule a prior decision. To the contrary, the justices should double down. This is likely a 5-4 decision because this betrayal looks like an intimidation tactic to get one or more justices to change their mind. Since the decision in many ways out, those 5 should stop the pressure by signing the latest version of it, publishing it immediately, and then it becomes a binding document decision of the court. Those with dissents or concurrences can publish them later if they so inclined. But this shameful debacle and intimidation pressure campaign it is created should end now with the court handing decision in Dobbs. This is on page 65. We do not pretend to know how our political system or society will respond to today's decision overruling Roe and Casey. And even we could foresee it, that would happen. We would have no authority to let the knowledge influence our decision. We can only do our job, which is to interpret the law, apply longstanding principles of stare decisis, and decide the case accordingly. We therefore hold that the Constitution does not confer a right to abortion. Roe and Casey must be overruled, and the authority to regulate abortion must be returned to the people and their elected representatives. Wow. Just my thoughts. And as someone who is pro-life, I don't take this with a grain of salt. This is a major decision. We are talking the possible end of a generation, of death and unwanted destruction of the most innocent of us. 63 million babies have been murdered since 1973. This is the closest we've ever been in our history, those of us who remember that day, that year. I was only 3 years old at the time, showing my age. But this is something that a lot of people wouldn't think to see in their lifetime. And now we are this close. Now, I agree with a lot of the comments that this is an intimidation tactic. The left will use this as a hammer to try to intimidate those like Coney Barrett, like Roberts, like Kavanaugh. Because the remaining those on the left, what their decision is. Thomas and Alito, what their decision is, which way they're going, because Alito wrote the initial draft. Wow, just wow. And, from someone who believes that God created us all equal, that he created every child, every single one of us, I pray that this turns out to be true and that the decision is signed as commented by the 5 justices and that it makes it binding so that this intimidation nonsense will not happen. But watch the media today. Watch the left media today and how they're going to gaslight this. That is what they're going to do. Roe v. Wade is a necessary evil. Well, it's necessary for them. It's an evil for us. And it needs to be overturned. It is way, 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 way overdue. And with that being said, I'm Jasper Gonzo. This is What's Next. I want to see more just like this. Please leave a comment below. Like it, share it, subscribe to it. And we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.